Here we are going to discuss the synthesis of a 4-bar mechanism using path generation technique. Let us take an example in which the sum of the parameters are given. Design a 4-link mechanism to coordinate the following 3 positions of the coupler point. Okay, so here my coupler point is given for the 3 positions R1, R2 and R3, and the respective angles also given. So to define the angles, we have to draw any reference line, and to define this length, we have to define a point. So here we have defined a point over here, A1, and also taken a fixed line, A1, D1. Okay, here D1 is still now not defined. Only we have taken a line in the direction of A1 and D1. Now, defining the 3 points mentioned R1, R2 and R3. Here we have indicated the other E point n of R1 by E1, E2 and E3, which are at a distance of 55 mm, 70 mm, 75 mm at a respective angle of 75 degree, 50 degree and 40 degree. Now, what we are doing it over here, other parameters also mentioned in the question, that is the angular displacement of the input link are given, that is theta 12 and theta 13. Now we are rotating the E2 and E3 by the angular displacement mentioned in the question. Okay, we are rotating E2 by an angle of 30 degree to get E2 dash, rotating E3 by an angle 70 degree to get E3 dash, and here this is my initial point E1, joining E1 with E2 dash, E1 with E3 dash, drawing the mid normals. These are my mid normals, and they intersect at a point B1 to get a 1 point on the coupler. This is my 1 point. Now my purpose is to determine the other points also, but before that we are determining the B1 position in 3 respective coordinates, in 3 positions. Similar to E1, E2 and E3, we are determining the B1 for also B1, B2 and B3. How we can determine it? Same, we have rotated it E2 and E3 by an angular displacement. So we are reversing it back. B1 we are reversing it by an angle 30 degree to get B2 dash. And again B1 it is reversed back to 70 degree to get B3 dash. Same length, A1, B1, A2, B2 and A3, B3 are of the same length at different angles. Now, to determine the other link on the coupler, we have to fix the other point. That means now we have to determine the D1. I have assumed D1 is at a distance of 7 cm from A1. Now, we are using a triangle of similar triangle concept to determine the other point. Here I have taken a point. Here I have taken assuming a B2 and E2 point, and B2, E2 and D1 triangle we are assuming it over here. From B2 and D1 we are measuring the distance, and similarly we are repeating it from E2 and D1, and that same distance is to be replicated from B1 and E1. Okay, same distance we are taking it to determine the point D2 using the similar triangle. That means B1, E1, D2, and B2, E2 and D1 are similar. Okay, repeating the same for the B2, E3, D1 other triangle. Okay, that has also to be made similar to other triangle to determine the D3. Okay, so from B2 to D1 we have first determined it, then again E3 and D1 we have determined it. These are my distances. And here now measuring the same distance from B1 and E1, we get a point. Cutting an arc over here, we are getting a point D3. Okay, so we have determined the 2 points D2 and D3, and joining these 2 points from D1 to D2, D2 to D3, and drawing the mid normals. This is my first mid normal, this is my second mid normal. Okay, these 2 lines intersect at a point C1 to get the other point on the coupler. Okay, we have determined the first point. This is my first point B1, this is my second point. Joining these 2 points will give me the connecting rod, coupler, sorry, we are getting a coupler over here. And here now we have already assumed the A1 and D1, that is my fixed point. Joining A1 to B1, D1 to C1 will complete the 4 link mechanism. Here my parameters that coming out over here, we have assumed it A1 D1 as 7 centimeter. These are the parameters for the 3 link it is coming. But here we are neglecting the one point, that is E1. E1 that is mentioned in the question, it is also present on the coupler. So joining E1 with C1 and E1 with B1, this is my coupler shape. Okay, and finally this coupler is connected with the help of fixed link from B1 to E1 and here now from C1 to D1. These parameters B1 E1 and E1 C1 is my this much, and this completes the 4 link mechanism by path generation technique. Thank you.